Revealed, the amazing truth behind 10 heartwarming smiles and their incredible silent struggles. In the beating heart of Maplewood, the quaint town where everybody knows your name, the Happiness Café stood as a beacon of warmth and resilience. Inside, Clara, a determined 35-year-old single mother, wore her faded apron like a badge of honor. She poured coffee, sizzled bacon, and exchanged laughter with her patrons, masking the weight of her own world. Her customers, a tapestry of stories woven together through shared meals, carried burdens of their own. There was Mr. Thompson, the elderly World War II veteran, nursing a paper cup as his haunted eyes gazed out the window, lost in memories too heavy to share. There was Jason, a single dad grappling with the loss of his job while trying to fill the void left in his daughter's life. Maria, a recent immigrant, navigated her way through prejudice with a brave smile, and Sarah, a stay-at-home mom, fought against her anxiety like a heavyweight in a ring. Clara recognized the hidden depths behind every smile. She lived each day with a heart full of hope, trying her best for Ben, her little boy whose dreams of adventure shone bright. Yet, as the café cast its warm glow over the town, whispers of an impending storm lurked on the horizon. One fateful day, bad news rolled in the announcement of a big chain diner set to open just a block away. The winds of change were cold, threatening to strip away the sanctuary Clara had fought so hard to create. As business dwindled, Clara's once bright smiles began to fade, mirroring the worries of her patrons. The café that had thrived on connection became charged with uncertainty. Conversations turned somber, laughter dimmed, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with anxiety. Behind each booth, the unease twisted like shadows, snuffing out the warmth they had built together. A heaviness blanketed Maplewood. Would the unique charm of the Happiness Café fade away with the arrival of gleaming corporate chains? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Finding her breath amid the chaos, Clara felt the stirrings of a movement within her. She gathered her loyal customers, sparks of determination lighting up their eyes. Together, they fought for recognition of their shared struggles, unearthing their hidden realities. The patrons who had come merely for coffee now stepped into action, revealing stories rich with heartache and triumph. For a moment, the bonds tightened, and they found strength in their connections until an unexpected letter landed in Clara's mailbox, threatening to unravel everything. As whispers of scandal spread, Clara stood at a crossroads. Would the very transparency that defined their community bring them together or tear them apart? The walls of the café began to tremble under the weight of secrets, and it seemed those once warm smiles were on the verge of transforming into masks of despair. Would they rise against odds stacked high, or would their journeys crash like waves against a rocky shore? The air hung thick with questions, leaving hearts beating fast and a feeling of uncertainty that plagued them all. What could come next in this intertwined tale of resilience? The next morning, Clara brewed the coffee with twice the usual care. It was a ritual of sorts, an act of defiance against the tempest brewing outside her café's windows. She glanced over at Ben, coloring happily at a corner table, blissfully unaware of the chaos circling them. In that moment, Clara refused to be consumed by the spiraling doubts that crept into her mind. She took a deep breath, gathering the threads of her resolve. As she wiped down the counter, Clara caught sight of Mr. Thompson entering with a slow, deliberate gait. His presence always brought a comforting familiarity to the café, and today, his soft, solemn smile felt like a beacon. Something about him seemed more fragile than usual. "Morning, Clara," he said, his voice gravelly yet warm. "Morning, Mr. Thompson," she replied, pouring him his usual cup of black coffee. She noticed the tremble in his hands as he accepted it. "You okay?" He looked out the window, eyes clouded by memories that seemed relentless. "Just the weight of the world sometimes," he whispered, staring into the distance. Clara saw the weariness behind his smile and felt her heart ache in solidarity. The bell above the door chimed, bringing in Jason, who looked even more haggard than yesterday. He shuffled towards the counter, his gaze drifting toward Ben, who squealed in delight over a burst of colors on the page in front of him. "What is he up to today?" Jason asked, his voice tight. "Just being a kid," Clara answered, trying to keep her tone light. "Drawing dragons and defeating monsters." Jason chuckled softly, but Clara could see the worry etched deep in his brow. "Sometimes I think I could use a dragon too, just to chase away the dark clouds," he trailed off. Their eyes met briefly, and she felt an invisible bond forming, one forged in shared struggles. The cafe began to fill with familiar faces, all seeking solace in a cup of coffee and a warm smile. Maria rushed in, her dark curls bouncing with energy. "I brought cookies," she exclaimed, her expression a blend of excitement and hopefulness. "I figured we could use some sweetness today." Clara's heart lifted slightly. It was moments like this, small yet significant, that reminded her why they were fighting. They were more than mere patrons, they were a family forged in laughter and shared burdens, each supporting the other. The cacophony of chatter filled the room as people gathered around tables, the laughter growing in defiance of the storm outside. Clara watched them, the vibrant energy momentarily casting aside their worries. But just then, the jarring sound of a loud horn honking outside shattered the temporary peace. She turned and saw the sleek, shiny vehicle with the diner's logo parked nearby. It was a stark reminder of the looming threat. Questions raced through Clara's mind. How would they respond? Could they weather this storm together? As if reading her thoughts, Mr. Thompson stood slowly, raising his voice above the crowd. "I say we fight." His determination ignited a ripple of cheers throughout the cafe. Clara felt a rush of warmth spreading through her chest. Together, they could do more than merely survive, they could thrive. But just as the hope began to settle in, Clara glanced at the letter still unopened on the counter. The unknown lingered, like a shadow waiting to pounce. When she finally opened it later that evening, her breath caught in her throat. The words within read like a ticking clock, each sentence threatening to unravel the fragile threads of their community. Was this the beginning of their fight, or the end of it all? Clara held the letter tightly, her heart pounding as she pondered the choice she now faced, shining bright against the encroaching darkness. What was the truth they would have to confront? The air was thick with anticipation, and everything hung in a precarious balance. Would they find a way to stand together, or would fear pull them apart when they needed each other the most? The cafe buzzed with an energy that felt almost electric, but beneath the surface, Clara could sense the undercurrent of tension simmering just out of sight. She placed the letter back on the counter, her resolve hardening like the glass of an emotional fortress. The rattle of teacups and laughter of children danced around her, but her gaze remained anchored to the profound uncertainty ahead. "Hey, Clara!" Jason called, pulling her back to the present with a grin. It was faint, yet she could see his eyes betraying a storm of worries. "What would you do if you found out a secret? Like, a really big one?" She thought for a moment, letting his question roll around in her mind like the steam rising from her freshly brewed coffee. "Depends on the secret," she replied finally, trying to keep her tone light but feeling heavy inside. "Would it help or hurt?" He nodded slowly, chewing on the thought. "What if it changed everything? Like, the whole foundation of what we believe?" Clara realized the weight of his words danced around the room, touching others in that moment. Mr. Thompson chimed in, his gravelly voice piercing through the chatter. "Secrets are funny things. They can either bond us or break us apart." "Or both," Clara murmured, glancing at Ben, still doodling, lost in his colorful world of fantasy. Her heart ached, wishing she could shield him from adult complexities, just for a while longer. The door swung open again, drawing everyone's attention. A group of newcomers filed in, their faces reflecting a mix of curiosity and caution. Clara recognized them from the rival diner. They were a mix of employees and regulars, looking out of place yet determined. They hesitated just inside the door, a palpable tension hanging above them, an uninvited storm crashing into her tranquil haven. "Hey, "What's happening here?" one of them finally asked, tilting their head at the noise. "A little gathering of good spirits," Clara said, her voice bright. But internally, her heart raced. "You're welcome to join." They stepped further inside, and the atmosphere shifted. It felt like a fragile truce had formed, but Clara sensed the unspoken challenge hanging in the air. Would this be a moment of acceptance or confrontation? Mr. Thompson stood and leaned on the counter, staring down the newcomers. "We're standing strong against a threat, and it doesn't matter where we get our coffee. It matters that we support each other." His voice rose with conviction, and Clara's spirit soared at the strength he displayed. Jason shifted uneasily, glancing between faces that were mostly unfamiliar. "Yeah, we all have our struggles here, and we've made it work," he added, a flicker of solidarity sparking in his eyes. The atmosphere seemed to pivot, a shift in the collective energy. One of the newcomers finally spoke up, "We know there's been chatter about a merger. Tough times for everyone, huh?" A murmur rippled through the café, tension escalating once more. Clara could feel the weight of eyes on her like question marks begging for answers. Her stomach knotted, the letter pressing against her side like a warning. "Then let's talk about this merger," Clara spoke up, her heart thundering against her chest. "Are we standing together or are we already divided?" As she scanned the room, all eyes waited upon her. She felt the truth, ready to spill the truth that had the potential to either unite or tear them apart. In that moment, she realized this might be the pivotal moment of their fight, but just as the words danced on her lips, someone whispered from the back, "What exactly are we risking?" The question echoed, the silence wrapping around them like a thick fog. Clara grasped the edge of the counter tightly, bracing herself for what lay ahead. Moments and choices converged, the future of their community hanging in the balance. Would she uncover the truth that bound them or shatter their fragile support? Clara's mind raced as she prepared to answer for better or worse. Clara stood at the center of the café, her heart beating like a drum as she felt the weight of her voice hanging in the air. Everyone's eyes bored into her, a mixture of curiosity and fear setting the stage for what she would say next. They were waiting, hoping for something to bind them together amid uncertainty. "What exactly are we risking?" The voice from the back was sharp, laced with skepticism. The newcomer, a woman with dark curls and tired eyes, stepped forward. Clara recognized her as a waitress from the rival diner. She was part of the storm that had swept into their safe space. Taking a deep breath, Clara felt her pulse quicken. "We risk losing everything we've built here," she said, her voice gaining strength, fueled by the shared energy of the café patrons. "But if we don't talk about it, we'll lose even more our connection to each other." Jason nodded in agreement, trying to fill the void. "We need to know what's at stake. We can't be blindsided by this merger. It's not just about businesses, it's about our lives, our families." Mr. Thompson cleared his throat again, his face a portrait of determination. "This isn't just about coffee or competition. It's about community. We have to stand together and face whatever comes next." Clara swiftly shifted her focus, scanning the room. The others had leaned in, intrigued yet conflicted. "What do you think the merger means for us? For our jobs, our friendships?" A young man from the rival group stepped forward, his eyes flickering with hesitation. "If this merger happens, we might end up losing our jobs. Or worse, they'll change how we serve this community." Clara breathed in sharply. It struck deep. "So, this isn't just about coffee. It's about our lives. We cannot let someone else dictate how we connect with each other." The murmurs rose again, voices intertwining. Some agreed vehemently, while others expressed fear. Clara felt the tension swirling, a tangible thing in the air as she stood between them, unsure if she could command the storm. Suddenly, Ben's small voice piped up, cutting through the chaos like a beacon. "Can't we all just be friends? My friends share toys, not jobs." His innocent perspective brought a few chuckles, lightening the mood. It was a gentle reminder of the power of community, despite the looming threats. "That's right, kiddo," Clara responded, summoning warmth in her tone. We can choose to nurture our friendships, our ties. If we come together, we can be strong no matter what happens. A hesitant but hopeful energy began to bubble in the room. Clara could almost feel the barriers giving way. But still, uncertainty echoed, tightening around her. Yeah, but it doesn't change what's coming, does it? What if we can't fight it? The dark-haired waitress shot back, her voice trembling with fear. Clara's resolve wavered for just a moment, the flicker of doubt threatening to pull her under. But she held her ground. No matter what's coming, we can't face it alone. We can only face it together. Just as the sentiment settled, one of the newcomers stepped closer still, gripping a chair nearby. Are you saying we fight the merger together? Like as a team? Her heart raced, and the room fell silent. The question hung there, like a rich tapestry, each thread weaving into the greater picture. The atmosphere changed, charged with anticipation. Clara's gut told her this could be the turning point, the launch pad for everything they need. But would they actually unify? In the stillness that followed, Clara felt the collective weight of hope and fear in the room. They were on the brink of something that could either forge an unbreakable bond or unravel everything. As she opened her mouth to respond, a sudden crash echoed from outside, drawing everyone's attention away from the moment, leaving a lingering question in the air: what awaited them next? Would they band together, or would this be their breaking point? The crash reverberated through the café, silencing every voice. Clara's heart skipped as the sound mingled with the anxious murmurs of the crowd. She turned to the window, the glass reflecting the worried faces of those around her. What had just happened outside? People slid from their chairs, eyeing each other with a mix of fear and curiosity. Jason was the first to step toward the door, his demeanor both cautious and protective. Mr. Thompson followed closely, a stalwart figure among the thrumming anxiety. "Let's check this out," Jason called back, though his voice trembled slightly. Clara's stomach knotted. What if this was the initial hint of chaos to come? Panic seized the room like a tidal wave, and for a brief moment, they were mere spectators in a world unspooling. "Stay close!" Clara shouted, trying to keep her own voice steady. She pushed her way to the front, squinting as she stepped into the cool air. A group had gathered outside, whispering and gesturing animatedly. It didn't take long for Clara to see what had caused the commotion. A delivery truck had overturned just outside the café, crates of products spilling onto the pavement. There was no serious damage, but the sight felt symbolic: chaos spilling into their lives just like the cargo on the ground. "They're gonna clean it up. No one's hurt," a voice from the crowd reassured. Clara turned, finding the dark-haired waitress who had earlier voiced her skepticism. In that instant, Clara saw a glimmer of determination in the woman's eyes. "Even if it's just a minor accident, it's a sign," the waitress continued, her voice steadier now, as if she had found conviction among the overturned crates. "Things are changing, whether we like it or not." Clara felt her heart swell. Exactly. We can't just stand by while everything falls apart around us. This is a sign that we need to stir things up before it's too late. She was almost surprised by the fire that flared inside her as she spoke. The crowd began to murmur, eyes flicking between the truck and Clara. The waitress stepped forward, her face a mixture of resolve and hope. "What do we do?" Facing this sudden shift in energy, Clara felt a surge of responsibility wash over her. "We tell our stories," she said. "We lift each other up. Each of us has something to lose with this merger. If we unite, sharing our fears and dreams, they can't ignore us." Ben was still near her, eyes wide with a childlike understanding. "Like my friends," he piped up again. A ripple of laughter broke through the tension. Clara smiled down at him, warmth spreading in her chest. "Yeah, kiddo. Just like that. We have to be friends and help each other." There was an underlying sense of urgency now. People were leaning in, listening. A shared understanding seemed to bubble on the surface, rising higher with every word exchanged. As they began to form small clusters of discussion, Clara could see the flicker of connection reigniting among them. They were no longer just a crowd, they were proving they could be a coalition. But despite the growing momentum, Clara couldn't shake a sense of foreboding. "We have to act quickly before they seal the deal," she urged, determination lacing her tone. "Let us pool our voices, our stories. What happens next will define us." As the discussions flourished around her, she noticed the rival waitress whispering something to Jason. Their serious expressions hinted at something deeper. Clara's heart raced. What were they talking about? "Hey!" she called out, her voice slicing through the gathering murmur. "What are you two planning?" The pause that followed felt heavy, pregnant with unspoken truths. Jason's brow furrowed, and for the first time, Clara realized that everyone's resistance might not be as solid as she had hoped. "Come on, we can't let fear rule us. We need to stand united," she insisted, urgency pouring from her. But as their eyes met, she sensed a flicker of doubt in Jason's gaze that sent her stomach twisting once again. What if this was just the beginning of division rather than unity? And what hidden truths lay beneath the surface, waiting to unravel? The weight of anticipation hung heavily as they all waited for Jason's response. Would he pull away, or would he reaffirm the promise of team? Jason finally broke the silence, stepping forward with a weary sigh that made Clara's heart drop. "Look, Clara, I get what you're trying to do. But you need to understand that not everyone's on the same page. Not everyone wants to rally together. It's complicated." His hesitation was palpable, like quicksand pulling him deeper into uncertainty. Clara's chest tightened. Complicated? This was about standing up for their livelihoods, for their families. "Jason, don't you see? We don't have the luxury of time," she replied, her voice rising slightly. She could feel the tension ripple through the crowd, a collective breath held in anticipation. The rival waitress, Lisa, shifted her weight, her eyes darting between Clara and Jason. "I agree with Clara. This is more than just us, it's about the future of this cafe, our homes, everything. If we don't speak out, we'll be washed away." Her voice was strong, laced with urgency. "Washed away or dragged down," Jason muttered, casting his gaze to the ground as if avoiding the weight of their reality. A flicker of frustration sparked within Clara. She felt herself inching closer to him, her own fears bubbling beneath her resolve. "So, what do you want to plan to do? Nothing. We can't let them bulldoze our community." Her heart raced as she watched his conflict play out. A low murmur spread among the crowd, voices breaking into small groups again, each whispering thoughts and doubts. Clara's throat constricted, fighting to suppress defeat. Were Jason and Lisa really the holdouts keeping the rest from taking action? "Look, let us just talk about this," Lisa suggested, glancing nervously around as if expecting someone to burst their bubble of hope. "Why don't we share our stories first? Maybe if we understand where everyone's coming from, we can find common ground." Jason finally looked up, eyes narrowing with thought. "Okay, but we need to be careful. We might not all see eye to eye." The crowd quieted, a collective consent rippling through as people nodded. Clara could practically feel the weight of each hesitant heart. But among them, Ben's innocent excitement shone brightly. "I want to go first," he shouted, hands flailing. "All right, Ben," Clara said, smiling at him despite her anxiety. "What's on your mind?" The boy didn't hesitate. "My mom always says that if we stick together and help each other, we'll be the best team ever." His small voice cracked with sincerity, drawing smiles and laughter from the gathered crowd, momentarily easing the tension. A warmth spread through Clara. It was the childlike hope that everyone was clinging to, that maybe just maybe connection could outweigh the fear that was threatening to dominate. With each story shared, Clara noticed a small shift in Jason. It was as if hearing the voices of the crowd was forcing him to confront his own doubts. His brow relaxed a bit, and Clara took this as a sign of progress. We're not just fighting for ourselves. Clara felt her own courage returning. We're fighting for every single person who walks through those doors to keep this place alive. The atmosphere crackled with palpable energy, bodies leaning in, murmurs building with newfound determination. But deep inside, Clara's mind raced. Were they really prepared for what was to come? Would their coalition withstand the inevitable pushback? With each passing moment, a nagging worry clawed at her insides, a reminder that talking wouldn't be enough. They needed a plan, something concrete to stand on. She glanced at Jason, still grappling with his role in the unfolding drama. The moment of collective hope felt fragile. Would it hold against the looming threat? Or would the unseen forces threatening their lives bring them crashing down like that overturned truck outside? As the voices blended into a symphony of determination, Clara's eyes fixed on Jason, realization dawning on her. Josh, we need a leader to steer this unity. Someone who can hold us together when things get tough. Will you help us? The crowd turned towards Jason, breaths catching in anticipation. Would he step up or fade away? Clara felt a rush of hope and fear all at once. Their path depended on his decision, and the outcome promised to change everything. What would Jason choose? The moment hung in the air, every heartbeat amplified in the collective silence. Jason stood at the center of a storm, his expression shifting from uncertainty to something deeper, something that hinted at resolve. Clara's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to reach out, to shake him awake from this doubt, but she knew that the decision had to come from him alone. Then, Jason took a step forward and cleared his throat. Look, he started, his voice steady but low, I know it seems like I'm holding back, but, he hesitated again. The crowd leaned in, anticipation strumming across the room like a taut wire. I've been watching everything happen. We make great coffee, and we have a good life here, but I worry about where we're heading. Without warning, the worry escalated into a full-blown revelation, spilling out as if he had finally unlatched a dam. I've seen businesses close. Good people left without jobs. My own dad, he lost his shop last year. We can't risk this place becoming another ghost story. Gasps rippled through the crowd, shockwaves of shared loss resonating in the air. Clara felt a knot in her stomach loosen. This was the moment they were all human. They shared this bond of vulnerability that connected them beyond just their fight. Jason, Lisa murmured softly, her own expression a blend of compassion and surprise. He nodded, as if accepting the reality with grace. I want to fight for this place. I didn't know how. Clara stepped forward again, emboldened. You don't have to do it alone. We all know why this matters. And together, we can figure out a way. Jason took a deep breath, his shoulders relaxing. Then maybe we find a way to unite, to gather our stories. We can make headlines with our experiences, show the world why this matters. The crowd erupted into applause, hopeful and energized, but just as swiftly, a shadow crossed Jason's face. But there's something else, something I need to share. My dad isn't just out of a job. He is still fighting to keep a roof over our heads. If I take on this leadership, I'm risking everything. What if I fail? The air thickened, uncertainty creeping back in. Clara stepped closer to Jason, searching his eyes for the flickers of bravery. Then we'll catch you if you fall. You won't fail alone. We're all in this together, remember? There was a palpable shift in the atmosphere. Members of the crowd exchanged glances, nods, and murmurs of support. One by one, people began to raise hands with their stories of resilience, echoing the sentiment that they all felt anxious yet hopeful. It was a chorus of shared burdens, of parents losing jobs, of kids seeking opportunities, and of dreams that felt as fragile as glass. As stories flowed, Clara felt a swell of energy rising, electrifying the air. Plans were formulating, ideas were swirling, and within that tiny café, hope crackled like static electricity. They were becoming a united front, forging connections deeper than any words could express. But the nagging question hung heavy, would their resolve be enough? Just as Clara settled deeper into this newfound determination, her phone buzzed on the table behind her. She jumped, glancing at the screen. The local news app had a notification. Threat to neighborhood businesses intensifies city council meeting tomorrow. Her heart sank. Would they have enough time to organize before everything was decided for them? Clara's eyes darted back to Jason, catching a flicker of fear mirrored in his gaze. Tomorrow could change everything, she whispered under her breath, uncertainty creeping back in as reality set in again. Would they have the courage to confront the threats ahead, or was the clock already ticking too fast for them to catch up? In that moment, they all knew, this was just the beginning. What would they do when the city council's decision came crashing down? The café buzzed with energy, but an undercurrent of tension lingered like smoke in the air. Clara glanced around the room. Faces lit with determination fought against shadows of uncertainty. Jason stood at the front, his posture strong yet visibly shaken. He was their leader now, but everyone could see that the weight of it was heavy. "Okay," Clara shouted above the clattering cups and murmurs. "We have to figure out a plan. We can't let this meeting catch us off guard." The crowd quieted, all eyes drawn to her. "Right," Jason nodded, pulling out a notepad. "Let us brainstorm ways we can present our stories. What's our narrative? How do we show the council what this café and our community really means?" Clara felt adrenaline surge through her. "We can start with personal testimonials. Stories that are relatable, that show the faces behind the coffee." She moved around the table, her voice animated. "It's not just about a café, it's about families, about roots. We have lives here. Yes. We can highlight how much this place supports local artists and musicians too." Andrea, a regular who often played open mic nights, chimed in. "Let us show them how many people this place touches." "Exactly." Jason shouted, a spark igniting in his eyes. "We could create a video show how we come together, our community events, the small moments that matter." The room filled with excited chatter, voices overlapping as ideas flew. Clara felt her heart swell. They weren't just plotting a defense, they were crafting a love letter to their community. But as ideas flowed freely, a looming shadow reminded her that time was the enemy. "What do we do if they dismiss our stories?" Jason asked, his voice steady yet laced with unease. "What if they don't care?" The room fell silent, a collective pause that felt like a deep breath before a plunge. Clara sensed the fear creeping back into the air. "We can't think like that," she said at last. "We have to believe we can make a difference. This café is our heart. If they want to shut it down, then they're taking away more than just a coffee shop. They're taking away our community." "Clara's right," Lisa added, breaking the stillness. "If we speak from the heart, they'll have to listen. We've all faced our battles, sharing that will resonate. What if we show them the numbers too?" Mark, the barista with a keen business sense, suggested. "Highlight the economic impact we've had, how many people we've employed. We can back our stories with facts. Numbers often talk louder than words." A sense of camaraderie filled the café as they pivoted toward strategy. Clara felt the atmosphere shift from fear to purpose, and with that shift, the determination to act overwhelmed her. They were no longer just patrons of a café, they were protectors of a shared history, woven together by countless cups of coffee and laughter. But even as they crafted their battle plan, Clara's mind raced with the harsh reality. What if they weren't ready for the council's response? Outside the café, heavy clouds loomed in the sky, mirroring Clara's thoughts. There was something ominous about it, a reminder that change could come swiftly and unexpectedly. Tomorrow would indeed change everything, but how? "Okay, it's settled then," Jason said, breaking through the brewing storm as he turned to face the crowd. "We'll meet again tonight to finalize our plan before the council. Let us be ready for whatever happens." Clara felt a twinge of worry creep back in. Would it be enough? Just as she opened her mouth to voice her concerns, her phone buzzed again. Another notification flashed across her screen. City Council meeting update, community threatened by sweeping business closures. The air throbbed with urgency. What awaited them could either break them or bring them together in ways they never expected. Clara's pulse quickened. "Let us do this," she finally said, voice steady, determination blazing in her eyes. But as they stood united, one crucial detail gnawed at the edges of her thoughts. What if their best efforts weren't enough to combat the council's cold decisions? The clock is ticking, and their moment to act is near, but would it be enough? The cafe felt charged with an electrifying mix of determination and dread, the air thick with anticipation. Clara arrived earlier than the others for their evening meeting, hoping that focus would come with the dimming lights. She settled into her usual seat by the window, the faint neon glow of the cafe's sign outside casting a comforting light against the gathering darkness. She stared at the emptiness of her coffee cup, lost in thought. The conversations from earlier replayed in her mind, snippets of hopeful voices blending with underlying fears about the council meeting. What if their heartfelt testimonials fell on deaf ears? What if the council just saw numbers and faceless evidence? These questions clawed at her. The door swung open, and the familiar sound of laughter cut through Clara's worry. Jason entered first, his shoulders slightly less tense. "Hey, Clara." He greeted, a smile breaking through his earlier uncertainty. "You ready for round 2? "I think so." Clara replied, forcing a smile. "Just trying to gather my thoughts. I'm worried, what if they don't see us? What if they only listen to the facts?" Jason nodded thoughtfully, pulling out a chair beside her. "This cafe isn't just numbers. It's us. The heart of this place is our stories." As the group assembled, each face lit with determination, Clara's heart began to beat a little steadier. They shared a common thread woven through their lives and struggles, a reality that transcended beyond average business statistics. "All right, everyone," Jason called, leaning forward on the table, enthusiasm igniting the air. "Tonight, we solidify our final pitch. Let us polish those stories and add some numbers, just like Mark suggested." Clara raised her hand. "I know we've been focused on the emotional side, but we can talk about how this cafe supports local charities too. A portion of our profits goes back to helping those in need. It's not just a business, we're creating a ripple effect." A murmur of agreement swept through the group. Lisa's eyes twinkled in admiration. "That's it. We paint a full picture. Show them our hearts, but back it up with what we do. We're more than coffee, we're a social fabric." "Agreed," Mark chimed in. "We can create facts around our community impact every charity event, every artist spotlight, and every meaningful conversation that has taken place here." Excitement bubbled as the team began to brainstorm sessions of storytelling mixed with supporting evidence. Clara began to envision a video montage cascading through poignant moments at the cafe, families sharing laughter, artists strumming guitars, community gatherings under twinkling lights. Her heart swelled at the thought, but with every fervent idea came a reminder of the council's looming decision. The topic of fear resurfaced. What if they just don't care? Clara asked, chewing her lip. What if they have their minds made up? Jason looked around at the faces of his friends, his family. Just because we're bringing our stories doesn't mean we won't be met with resistance. But remember, Clara, even if they shut us down, we'll fight. Together. Clara smiled softly at him, feeling warmth radiate within the circle. They weren't just fighting for a cafe, they were standing up for something much bigger, a community that thrived together. Suddenly, the cafe door swung open, startling the group. An unfamiliar stranger stepped in, a newspaper clutched firmly under his arm. Silence filled the room as he approached their table. "I heard you all talking," he said, his voice steady but urgent. "I think I might have something that could change everything for you." Clara's heart raced. What could this stranger possibly have to share? Could it be the lifeline they desperately needed? The stranger, a tall man with a worn-out jacket, leaned forward, urgency flickering in his eyes. "I'm from the Maplewood Gazette," he stated, pulling out the newspaper. He pointed to an article displaying a bold headline, "City Council Meeting, the Fight for Local Businesses." He paused, letting the moment settle over the gathered friends like a blanket of anticipation. "People are talking about you, this cafe, and the impending merger. I know the council members. They're looking for stories that resonate with the community," he continued, his voice earnest. "But they're also interested in the repercussions if there's an outcry." Hope surged through Clara as his words rolled over her. "What do you mean?" she asked, leaning in closer, heart racing with possibilities. "There's power in the numbers of people who support you. If you can gather signatures, garner testimonies, and show how this cafe has woven itself into the fabric of people's lives, you could sway the council's decision," he urged, excitement bubbling in his tone. "It wouldn't just be a plea, it would be a movement." Clara's mind raced. "So, we gather support? We could make it a community event," she exclaimed. Jason jumped at the opportunity. "We can have an event right here in the cafe, bring in local artists, families, and everyone who cherishes this space. Show them that we are alive, united, and ready to stand our ground." The cafe tightened around them with a newfound energy. "We could set up displays showing our impact," Clara suggested, her pulse quickening with each idea. "Include testimonials from patrons on video. The more voices, the better." Clara's thoughts rolled like a wave crashing in. The energy in the cafe shifted from uncertainty to determination. They weren't just gathering ideas, they were creating a tapestry of stories, each one unique yet intertwined, each showcasing the love, connection, and struggle woven into their every interaction. They began to brainstorm strategies, throwing around ideas and building momentum. Families would bring their kids to decorate signs. Local musicians would provide music. It would be a celebration of resilience, proof that their coffee shop wasn't just a business but a community lifeline. As they rallied together, Clara stood in the center, the light shining through the windows highlighting her earnest face. "This is our moment. We need each voice echoing louder than the chains. We will show the council how the happiness we create extends beyond these walls. It nurtures lives." The room erupted into applause. Clara could hardly contain her excitement. They were ready to become a force, united against the looming threat, ready to confront the council not just as cafe employees, but as a community fiercely protecting their home. As the energy buzzed and the plans took shape, tears welled in Clara's eyes, reflecting joy and gratitude. This was hope. This was transformation. They were family, each individual a piece of a puzzle that created something bigger than themselves. That night, they stayed late, planning, decorating, and preparing for the gathering that would happen the next day. The cafe hummed with excitement as laughter mingled with determination. Clara felt a sense of happiness rise within her, the worries slowly lifting like clouds parting for the sun. Soon, the day of action arrived, a day that felt electric with potential. As Clara stood behind the counter that morning, looking out at the gathering crowd filling the cafe, she smiled at Ben, who was busily drawing a colorful banner. In the next few hours, people would crowd in, sharing stories, raising their voices, and filling the space that had been their sanctuary. Clara felt her heart swell with gratitude, knowing that no matter what happened at the city council meeting that afternoon, they had already begun to change together, and in that moment, she understood, community was about connection, about lifting each other up, and about standing strong against the storms of life. No matter the outcome, they would walk out of it as family, bound by coffee, laughter, and resilience. "Ready, kiddo?" Clara asked Ben, reaching to tousle his hair. "Ready, Mom." He chirped back, excitement lighting his eyes. As the doors of the cafe swung open, a wave of patrons flooded in, each one holding a story, a hope, a connection to the place they loved. Clara realized that today wasn't just about saving a cafe, it was about celebrating who they were and the strength found in unity. She took a deep breath, heart racing, ready to embrace whatever came next. Together, she whispered to herself as she opened her arms wide to welcome their community in. In that moment, Amid laughter and conversations echoing within the walls, it wasn't just the cafe that felt transformed, it was every single one of them, illuminated in love, ready to face the world as one. Now, to all of you reading this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep us going. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to be part of this journey.